So one thing you may notice here is every week or two we release a FastTrack clients experience and they have so many lessons and so much wisdom to share. These are FastTrack clients who are absolutely crushing it, making their passive income, building their DeFi portfolios. And we want to share some words of wisdom from them to you. We do see FastTrack as a collaborative effort, and there is so much value shared on these mastermind calls. And I mean, clients are so freaking amazing that we wanted to share their experience with you. So without further ado, check out this week's FastTrack Client Spotlight.
So yeah, I just wanted to jump on, kind of have a quick chat about your fast track experience. I know that you've obviously been in the UIG for a while. You went through the accelerator. Um, I'd love to hear just, from start to finish, even with your historical experience in crypto and DeFi. What did that look like before joining Fast Track, and then how has that evolved over the past year or two, but also even the most recent few months.
Yeah, absolutely. Before UIG and before I joined the group, I was doing a little bit with crypto, but basically it was like a casino. I would try to gamble some money on some stuff and see if it went up. And if it did, I usually didn't even sell it and held on to it. And, it wasn't even like I didn't know what I was doing. And to be honest, I didn't know much about money in general. I didn't know really how it worked. And I just it was something you got and you spent, you earned and you spent it. And so um joining the UIG in the beginning, I didn't do it right. I kind of got in, I was like, oh, I just want to make money. And I just started like jumping into the pools and trying to do what they did. And and I was doing better. But it wasn't I was still experiencing the pitfalls you get when you're ignorant to the subject matter. And
Hmm.
so I finally kind of started going through the UIG much more methodically, the educational material, and joined the accelerator group. And since then, my understanding of money and markets and the economy has completely transformed. And it's actually completely transformed my life in general in terms of how I view the world and my outlook on things and just how I see, my worldview is just completely shifted. And, it's completely different than it ever was before.
Hmm.
And so, I started now building a portfolio and really building up some, savings and wealth and cash flow
Hmm.
that I never had been able to do before and didn't even know how to do. Saving money just seemed so difficult, or even earning it was just, a matter of just how much I worked and how much time I put into it.
Yeah.
And so it was very frustrating. And but now, with the accelerator program, really kicked it off. But then I joined the fast track program, and as the name suggests, things have kind of accelerated for me for sure. And especially with my education. When I joined the fast track, I started doing some things I saw the group doing, and I didn't completely understand it still, and I kind of was repeating some of the same old patterns I had done before. And so I kind of took a pause and I've really just dived into the educational part of it, like just head first, and just have really immersed myself past like month and a half in learning as much as I can and really taking a deep dive and understanding, what's going on behind the scenes of these liquidity
Hmm.
pools, these dexes, these sexes. And I've never been happier in terms of where I'm at in
Hmm.
understanding this stuff and developing where I'm trying to get to.
Yeah. Amazing. You mentioned your portfolio has kind of evolved and changed, and more recently as well. What does that look like now? And not even in terms of numbers. If you want, you can share what you want, but even in terms of how you think about or allocate capital, how has that evolved since, doing accelerator and fast track compared to the way you previously did things?
Yeah. Before I didn't understand risk and volatility.
Hmm.
And so I would really I'd look at the numbers and be like, oh, that's attractive, and jump on it and promptly lose. And so
Hmm.
really understanding how to judge an asset's, risk, and, what really is risky, what's really not risky, and how to approach it. But really it was more also the strategy. Before I would just take my capital, put in liquidity pool, and in mind, I wasn't even thinking about P&L. I was just thinking about the fees I earned, and then but it was just not making sense to me for a while. I was earning fees, but at the same time, I was losing money on one side, earning money on the other side, and things weren't gelling for me. But now I've with the strategy I implemented for the accelerators, my portfolio is basically all lend and borrow. And so, all my initial capital is lent out, and it's in, Bitcoin, XRP, and SUI. And, I borrow against it, using, the risk management of the group of keeping my TVLs low and being able to borrow and use those borrowed funds to generate cash flow for myself and to, build my loop as well. And so that's basically, my strategy. Back when I started the accelerator program, I started with, $20,000 in SUI, lending out SUI, and that side of my portfolio is like up to $46,000 now of lent out SUI. And that's just in the past, since, January. So I've I'm just thrilled with just seeing that grow, and my psychology of the whole thing is developed. I don't freak out with these price movements anymore. I understand it so much better. And so that's my portfolio is kind of just much less riskier, lending, borrowing, and, really trying to increase the lend side and continuing borrow a little more and keep building that up on both sides.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Amazing returns in such a short period. And I know it might be difficult, but if you could distill it down into maybe the one thing or the biggest thing that you've learned within FastTrack, what would you say that is?
Patience, I think. I think patience and putting that with the education is, to me, the thing I learned. Slowing down. I know FastTrack implies you're going to jump in, you're going to, I've really slowed down because the education is much deeper. And so I think what I've got, I guess, to distill it down is the depth of understanding of what I'm doing has increased exponentially with FastTrack than it had before, even with Accelerator, I feel. And, so coming out of that is just really just the educational part of it is really what I'm taking out of it the most right now, is the most important thing. And with that is just the patience of learning it right and then deploying properly, and I feel it's working towards, before I would have deployed in certain situations. Now it was dumped immediately. I'm deploying at all-time highs before, and now I'm not, and so it's, now it's a much better, situation.
Yeah, amazing. So we've got different elements in the FastTrack program. We've got the community, we've got mastermind calls, we've got open office hour sessions with the new structure. What part of it do you think you derive the most value from? And what does that look like for you?
I think the calls, to me, just the mastermind calls and these open office hour calls, I know they're pretty new, but the few I've been to, just listening to people talk, 75% of the time, someone asks the question I'm going to ask. Someone is touching on subject matter that I am really interested in. So even if I don't have anything specific that I want to cover, or just being in that group and listening to the calls, you always get new ideas, new strategies, new ways to approach things. You see how people made the same mistakes you did, so you don't feel as much as an idiot, and so you feel as part of like a team, people kind of, just bouncing ideas off each other, and the market outlook I get also from those really help me put things into a frame that I can understand and see where things are going. Because when I listen to you guys and listen to the group and these market outlooks, I tend to be much less nervous and anxious about what's happening, and I can make better decisions.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. Final question. If someone was on the fence about joining FastTrack and they were kind of thinking, oh, will I join, won't I join? What would you say to that person based on your experience?
I would say, really, why are you joining? Are you joining because you just want to immediately make lots of more money right away? I think that's probably not the best. I mean, that's a great motivation and all, but that might not be the best place to start. I think the mindset stuff is where you really need to make sure you're at. as you get into FastTrack, because they go hand in hand. And I didn't realize that until a little later into the group, and how important that the mindset stuff that you guys go over and that Lucas really pounds, and is so important, because even though, I'm doing much better financially, listening to that mindset stuff, you realize it's not just about money. It's a lot more going on there. And the reason I was doing so poorly before financially wasn't just because I was bad at managing money. And so there's more there than just financial, delinquency. So it was, I think you really gotta, do the mindset stuff first, and
Yeah.
really, or at the same time, make sure you're doing it as you're learning this other stuff, because it goes hand in hand. It's really
Yeah.
important to do.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I
let's make
love
sure your
that. I
head's in the right
think
spot.
no, I think you're spot on because it's not a get rich quick scheme. It's more that
No.
you need to build the skill set, and with the right mindset coupled with the strategies and the skill set, you can definitely set yourself up for success. And I think that's what you've managed to do for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I'm now, like, you talk about skill sets, the tool. I mean, before it was liquidity pools, but now I'm really learning more about, different strategies of intraday trading, and, using, volume price analysis, and learning all about that. And, learning how to read charts on different time frames and comparing it. So just stuff I never even thought I'd be learning. I'm just fascinated by it. And I just I'm just loving it. So, but it really takes it to a whole new level.
Yeah.
It's much more than just collecting fees.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Daniel, I really appreciate you taking the time. I want to be respectful because I know you're a busy man as well. So thanks so much for jumping on and taking a few minutes to chat. And I'm
My
always here if
pleasure.
you have questions, and let's just keep in contact over email, and I'll see you in the community.
Yeah, I'll see you there today. See you. Thanks,
100%.
Gordon.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
Daniel. I appreciate it. Have a great day. Cheers.
You too. Take care.